Chat's on. Welcome. See you in a little while. channel. So we are going to get into the NDE of Mary Kelley. Now I'm going to kind of give a brief breakdown in the beginning. We're going to be going over a video testimonial, and then I'm also going to pop in a little bit of an audio testimonial that she gave to NDERF at the end. So let me just give you a brief rundown here. Of course, I had it ready. Okay. All right. So Mary Kelley has had 2 NDEs, once at 5 years old and again in 1997 from an internal abdominal bleed due to complications from cardiac surgery. She also picks up memories along the way later on about pre-birth. And boy, does it line up with a lot of what we've talked about already here. Like I've said in the past, there's a difference between the pre-birth memories that we see that they come in that way, like Carol, who's in the chat with us tonight, versus those that kind of pick them up later through things like regression. But this is something that came to her in a different way, through kind of years passing in relation to her experience, and it's pretty damn interesting. So also wanted to say, she's an RN with 43 years of clinical administrative nursing in a hospital setting, and we're in for a wild ride on this one. It's going to be probably heavy commentary because there's so much, but I'll try to keep it flowing as best as possible. But just wanted to warn you in advance on this one because there's a lot. Okay, so let's just get right into it. This is Mary. And where the heck is there it is. Okay, here we go.
So it was like my parents were ready for me, right? So anyway,
Oops, sorry, that was false start. I apologize. And just to let you know, there's a time when the fax machine goes off. Remember those days? And also when the phone rings. So be prepared for it. It's a little later in the interview.
All the people that have had NDEs,
there we go. This is the beginning.
All of them. There are some related experiences, but then they can be very different and varied. So anyway, when I was born with a congenital heart defect. And the reason why I tell you this is because later on, it kind of fits into the entire story of why things happened to me. And I, as a matter of fact, I was a blue baby. So I was in the hospital almost the whole first year of my life. I could have had an NDE at that time when I was first born, but I don't remember it. So growing up, year 1, 2 to 5, I had a lot of medical issues with going in and out of the hospital, but I also, when I was home, wanted to be just like my brothers and do all the things that they were doing. And my mother was a firm believer that I shouldn't be held back just because I had this condition. So when I was growing up and playing, I was climbing trees with my brothers. I was roughing around with them. I was lifting things that I probably shouldn't have been as a 5-year-old. Well, that caused me to have a inguinal hernia. So Now we're talking 1957. So back then, the ORs were very different then. But they were very reluctant to do surgery on me because of my cardiac defect. The defect I had was an irregularity of the heart. So it would go very, 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 very fast and cause arrhythmias. And then I would end up, having trouble breathing. I go into congestive heart failure. So,
sounds great, doesn't it, guys? Poor Mary.
So it was challenging, but they felt that it was important enough to do the surgery. So back then they used ether. So I don't know if any of you ever had surgery back then or not, but they also had these old operating rooms. So that are much different than today. So I went into the operating room and was put to sleep with the ether. And then all of a sudden I woke up and I was down on floating on the floor. And I look down and I see the black and white checkered floor. And I thought, oh, that's the floor. And then I looked up and I see all these green pants around this table. And I saw my little hand dangling from the table. And I thought, oh, wow, I can leave. And then I thought,
Wow.
I turned to the doors, and the doors were, one of those, what do you call them, saloon doors, but they were full length. And I thought, how am I going to get out that door? Well, then all of a sudden, all these people started rushing in, and the doors opened. So I flew out, and I'm floating down this hallway, and floating away from all the people because they're running into the room. And I get halfway down the hall and I said, now I can go home. I really felt very strong that I could go home.
So that's interesting, right? She feels very strong that she can go home, feeling it within. I mean, oof.
And not this physical home.
Yeah.
And
They all feel
all of
its
a
own.
sudden, I felt this overpowering love as I'm floating towards the main door. And this being, this beautiful woman appeared, translucent, and she took up the whole wall. She went from the floor to the ceiling.
Okay, so here we have an oversized entity yet again, translucent, and we've heard other NDErs use very similar wordage like translucent or like a virtual reality, etc. So this further confirms that it's basically illusionary.
And she had this beautiful flowing white gown on with this blue head wrap. And she had this loving presence with her and very compassionate. And I floated up to her and she smiled at me, and everything was, the communication was all telepathic, but it was more of a soul-to-soul connection.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul, too.
Rather than telepathy. I don't know if you all experience telepathy, but it's a different type of communication. So it was deeper. And then she looked at me and she smiled with this beautiful smile. She had long black hair. And she said, "You have to go back." And I went, "I don't want to go back." I don't want to go back. Now, I wasn't in my body. I was like this bubble of light that was floating down the hall. And I said, "I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back." And she said, "But you have to go back."
But you have to go back. Laying down the law, telling her what to do. Now, I wanted to stop it a little farther back, but you recognize the point where she acknowledged she went towards it. So right there, you see the intention, the consent. She is actively deciding to go towards it out of curiosity, obviously. I mean, it's this big woman that takes over from floor to ceiling. There's a love being admitted. And now she's bossing her around, telling her what to do.
And I said, but I don't want to go back. I'm not going to go back. It's like a 5-year-old being defiant. And she goes, but you have to go back. And I said it again. I said, no, I'm going to come. I'm going to go. And she said, if you don't go back, you'll get lost. Why she said that to this day, I don't know. But all of a sudden, as a child.
Okay, so why she said that to this day, Mary, my opinion on that, and everybody listening, is that that's fear. That's to strike fear in her, and she pretty much acknowledges that. And that's a control mechanism. Oh, you might get lost. You're never going to find your way back. Control and fear right there in our face.
Child, you think, if you get lost, what happens to you? You know, you can't find your way home. And that's all I wanted to do was go home.
All I want to do is go home. And if I'm being told that I'm going to get lost, I'm going to have no way to get home. Fear, fear, fear. So
I turned around. I said, okay. And I turned around and I floated back down the hall. And I floated. This time, I just didn't even think about the doors. I was still thinking about not being able to go home. And I didn't want to get lost. So I had to go back and find my body. And so I just floated through the wooden doors. And I saw them still running around all over me. And I saw my hands still dangling there. And I actually went up through my hand and back into my body. And that was when I was 5. And
so she went in through her hand. That's an interesting one, right? Don't see that often.
I did not even know about the NDE, psychological and physiological changes that happen to your body with an NDE until I read the book NDE for Dummies by P.H. Atwater. I don't know if anybody's read that, but she describes a lot of the physiological as well as the psychological effects, after effects of an NDE I had. So growing up, I still wanted to go home. I mean, there was this, the main side effect that I had from that was this feeling of in the pit of my stomach that I felt empty because I wasn't home. And I had this sickness of homecoming sickness.
Now imagine you have this as a very young child and you're walking through the Matrix year after year, and all you do is have this yearning to go home. And yeah, Atwater's books, that one is really good. There's a few others she's put out. She's kind of been hoisted to the top, especially for NDEs and children. And she's also kind of likes to explain away everything. Now, look, that's where her research led her because of not just her experience, but dealing with experiencers in general, because everything kind of funnels into that way. So obviously, like anything else you're going to read, it's just for research purposes. But I do recommend some of her books. There's a couple lectures out there. Actually, there's quite a few lectures of her, and you'll see her all over different NDE books and spiritual books, like forwarding books. And I mean, it's endless. She's all over the place. So just want to make that known. Doesn't mean you shouldn't check out her research, because it does correlate with others. But you know, the end result, the explanation for what's going on and the reasoning behind it is obviously a layer of deception, not necessarily by her on purpose. It's just she's been utilized for that purpose, most likely unknowingly.
That I just couldn't get rid of. And then also in class, like sitting down in class, I would see orbs flying all around. I was very distracted, needless to say. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night and see things. So, my mother ended up getting used to not just me, but later on down the road when she had a couple of more kids, they also were very not only telepathic, but they were able to see. They had the gift of sight. So anyway, when I was about 8 years old, I was laying in my bed, and, my bedroom kind of faced the hallway. So there was like a little circle in the hallway, and 3 bedrooms were set up. So I could see my parents' room, I could see my brother's room, and all of a sudden I see this beam of light coming down. It's almost like a bulbulous spirit with a whisper of a tail, and the face.
Now, what's interesting is the way she describes it, and I wish I had an image. I will try to find it on the break. There is a really famous depiction, I want to say from allegedly like the early 1700s or mid 1650s, where you see something like she describes, except on a bigger scale. It's been classified like as one of the earliest UFO documentations. It's a famous painting. And I'll try and dig that up for you. I don't want to rant too long on that, but it's interesting how she describes it. It may correlate, but on a smaller scale, because the ones that were depicted in the painting seemed much larger.
Was on the bulbulous part, the outline of the face. And I saw this being fly back, and I realized it was my brother. And I saw him fly back into his body. And as soon as I saw that, instantly, I totally remembered my entire incarnation.
Here you go, Harold.
And there were parts of it I don't remember, but what I remembered is I was in this circle of light beings. There were 8 of us, and we all looked like that. The bulbulous round head, and then a whisper of a tail, and like you're only talking about this big, and then kind of a facial outline. And I was in this circle of 8 of us, and another being, and it was pitch black around us. It was like, but it was very comfortable and loving. And this another being came in to our circle.
Okay, so I hope you guys don't mind, but there's a lot in this one, so I'm going to play out a portion of it, and then I'm going to rewind it. Probably a couple minutes, because there's a lot here.
And we all felt like this being was doing his job,
His job.
And they said, it wasn't a he or she, they said, somebody from this circle has got to go down to Earth to do, and that's what I can't remember. I didn't have the memory of that.
I didn't. Okay, I'll let it play.
And like when you don't want to do something, you kind of like put your head down. When somebody wants you to do something, you put your head down, or you look away, or you get distracted somewhere so they get their vision away from you. Well, none of us, not one of us 8 beings wanted to go down. And so what happened was they said, I'm sorry, but somebody from this circle has got to go down. And so again, when you don't want to go, but nobody else is going to go, you end up volunteering, right? So I said,
bad move.
Well, I guess I'll go, but I don't want to go alone. And 2 beings down from me said, I'll go with you. And I said, okay. I was zoomed out of the circle with another being that flew. So the 2 of us were outside of the circle of beings. And in that time, I got my entire, well, first I was asked what sex I wanted to be, what race I wanted to be, and I kept changing my mind, and for different reasons. And every time I changed my mind, my parents would change, my geographical area would change. So finally, they said, okay, if this is what you want. And then there was a couple of other things that I asked for that I wanted, which I ended up getting. But then they said that, okay, now we're going to show you a pre-life review. And I actually saw my life as it is today.
Okay. I don't want to let it go too far. I mean, I really let it go way longer than I should have, but there is a lot here. And I'm sorry we're going to go over it again. So
we all felt like this being was doing his job, And I was in this circle of 8 of us.
Okay, so circle of 8. If you remember the interview I did with Mary, it was she's a lifelong experiencer. It was a long talk. We talked for over 5 hours, I think. She mentioned something where she was by a tree with some other spirits, some other beings, and almost the exact same thing happened. Hey, we need you to come down there. And like she's talking with other beings, and nobody wants to go. And she kind of gets tricked into it. But here, like, I'll show where I think also there's, obviously she's being messed with, but I think there's even something more revealing. So,
and another being, and it was pitch black around us.
So it's probably like a partial, like a false void almost.
It's like, but it very comfortable and loving. And this another being came.
Comfortable and loving. So it's comfortable. And what's happening? Love bomb, love frequency, boom, boom, boom. Easy manipulation targets.
Came in to our circle. And we all felt like this being was doing his job, And they said, it wasn't a he or she. They said, somebody from this circle has got to go down to Earth.
All right, you hear me? Somebody, listen up, you clowns over here sitting around thinking you could just get away with hanging out and relaxing in this loving environment. One of you has to go, and I expect some progress. I mean, really, it's like the mob coming in, for Christ's sake.
To do, and that's what I can't remember. I didn't have the memory of that.
I didn't have the memory. I didn't have the memory. So you see the blockade. I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. I mean, come on. I'm going to offer you a lifetime you'll absolutely hate.
And, like when you don't want to do something, you kind of like, put your head down. When somebody wants you to do something, you put your head down, or you look away, or you get distracted somewhere so they get their vision away from you. Well, none of us, not one of us 8 beings wanted to go down.
Not one of them. They all don't want to go, but they're being harassed. They're being harassed. And, it's like it's got the whole mission vibe going on, Oh, you got a mission. We've got to go take care of Earth down there. You got some work to do. We really need one of you. Come on. And the love bomb. I mean, come on. It's in our face.
And so what happened was they said, I'm sorry, but somebody from this circle has got to go down.
You hear me? Here, I got my Tommy gun in the trunk. If none of you are going to listen up and come along with me, I mean, this it's just a bunch of bullies. It's a bunch of bullies. But you know what the problem is? She shouldn't be in that realm in the first place. She should have never gotten to that point, because we've all been there. So trust me, I cannot judge anybody. It's just that we can see the deception and the manipulation going on here, and it's massive, massive. But if we put ourselves in that situation, eventually we're probably going to crack to the pressure, because we're in their realm, getting hit with the love bomb, having a good old time. It's probably the rejuvenation period in between lives for her, where she gets to take a little break. And then after a little time goes by, oh, Mary, hey, one of you over here, hop to it. Let's go. We got to get you back down to Earth. The whole thing is a little setup job. It's massive. It's in our face.
And so, again,
Harold.
When you don't want to go, but nobody else is going to go, you end up volunteering, right? So I said, well, I guess I'll go.
She should have crossed her fingers behind her back.
But I don't want to go alone. And
now this is where it's interesting. I don't want to go alone, but...
well, I guess I'll go. But I don't want to go alone. And 2 beings down from me said, I'll go with you. And I said, okay.
2 beings down from her. Who is to say that being is even what it claims to be? Seriously, that's something we need to consider here. Because they could set up this whole scenario. She isn't necessarily dealing with a real spirited being. This could be some sort of construct, some sort of parasitic construct that is all of a sudden, nobody wants to go. Nobody wants to go. All of a sudden, Mary feeling the pressure. She volunteers and says, but I'm not going unless I go with somebody with me, have someone with me. And magically, someone raises their hand, they're ready to go. What is that doing? It's giving her the inspiration, kind of boosting her up a little. All right, I'm going to do this. Right? That's what's happening. Real or not, it's a hatchet job.
I was zoomed out of the circle with another being that flew. So the 2 of us were outside of the circle of beings. And in that time,
it was probably the love bomb containment zone.
And in that time, I got my entire, well, first I was asked what sex I wanted to be, what race I wanted to be. And I kept changing my mind. and for different reasons. And every time I changed my mind, my parents would change, my geographical area would change. So,
and my life got worse and worse and worse. I mean, I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Finally, they said, okay, if this is what you want. And then there was a couple of other things that I asked for that I wanted, which I ended up getting. But then,
yeah, wheeling and dealing. This is the wheeling and dealing phase. Can you give me this? Can you give me that? Blah, blah.
And they said that, okay, now we're going to show you a pre-life review. And I actually saw my life as it is today in bits and pieces, just like you would have a past life review. But this was a pre-life review. So, and I saw many times that I'd end up being sick in the hospital, having surgery, having accidents, having injuries. And so, since all this happened, I'm kind of used to it. So it was like, or I knew it was going to come sooner or later. So I was prepared for it. Anyway, there was
all right. So, I mean, really, think about it. How many times have we gone over this? This is like just textbook what's going on. You get to kind of pick your life, this and this. And, she knows she's going to get sick. She's going to have surgeries, all sorts of horrible, horrible things. And she agreed to it. Courtesy of outside influence. I don't care who you are. All right, especially, we haven't even gotten to, you think it's been crazy so far. Buckle up. It's going to get nuttier. All right. So let me just say, I know most of you by now have seen the title of the video. She gets freaking attacked by a lion, for Christ's sake. Oh yeah. That's that's the only way you can get down to earth and take care of things for us, and that's your life script. So here you go. And then just think, age 5, she has an NDE, and she's just shuffling through life, her childhood, wanting to go home. That's just torturous. And again, we've barely scratched the surface on this damn thing.
Many times there was a break in the path, and they said, you can go this way or you can go this way, and you'll have the choice to go either way you want. Regardless, the outcome is going to be the same.
Aha! You can go this way or this way. Remember, two sides of the same coin. We're getting a pretty wild admission right there, aren't we? Either way, it's going to end up the same. Might be both roads suck, but you got to pick one.
But you might take the hard route, or you might take the shorter, easy route. So, so those were decisions I was going to have to make at certain times in my life. And then it's almost like going through life now, when you actually remember something or know something's getting ready to happen, is you may have had it as a deja vu, but I actually believe that you're remembering some of the pre-life review.
Now, see, I think that was an interesting concept. I really do, because I've never even thought of that. I've always looked at deja vu as being something more along the lines of, yeah, I've been here before, but I always equated it with a past life already lived, not necessarily one that's been picked out. Now, some other research suggests that, we just keep playing out the same type of script over and over, with the same group and this and that. and we're just on this repetitive loop. Now, I am not saying that's exactly what's happening, because a lot of it doesn't, in my opinion, point towards that. That being definitive. To me, it seems like, yeah, we keep reincarnating with the same soul group or soul groups, playing out this game all the time, but we have new avatar, new type of life script, but it's still filled with suffering. I mean, no matter how you slice it. So whatever you want to take away from this specific section, that's cool, but I really like her thought process on this, because it never really clicked like that for me. So it's an interesting concept to consider. Either way, same result.
And you've already seen it. So yeah, you are familiar with it, and you do get it. And so those are the kind of forks in the road that I like to pay attention to, because that may have been one of my paths that I could have taken one way or the other. So, I'm sorry.
Well, eventually we kept you in the Facebook group. So friend each other.
All right, so just so you know, there's going to be a little bit of feedback here. They kind of run into some issues. I would like to give a big thank you to Ken Albert for your very kind super chat. It says, keep it up. Thank you so much, my friend. Very much appreciated. All right, let's continue.
Right. I'll Marianne, y'all.
I'm just fast forwarding a little bit because there's a
second. Let me turn this phone off. Sorry about that. So anyway, deja vu. So I think that we need to pay attention to those.
I saw disconnected.
Those kind of things that that are alerting us to a way that we can choose where we want to go. And so, so after that, I was...
Okay, so we got to pay attention to things on, where to go and what to do and this and that. And let me ask, why isn't it spelled out? Why isn't it easier? Why is it such a pain in the ass? Why? And, she admits herself. Spotty memory. Everybody says this. It's just a very small section of memory. And then it's like there's blank beforehand, blank afterwards, or spotty information here and there with major gaps. You never, ever, ever get the full story. And that's all by the design of the Matrix Reincarnation Soul Trap. It's in our face, my friends. And if you're new, please just stick with me. I promise. If you hang in there, start diving through this stuff, you'll see it. I promise.
Even more homesick. But I knew that my brother that I saw fly back to his body was the being that was in my circle with me. And he was here to help me do whatever I was supposed to do. So, so after I made all those decisions and, chose what sex I wanted to be. And
some help he was, huh? Boy, he really helped her out. Boy, what a loving being. Yeah, and multiple NDE suffering, get mauled by a lioness. Yeah, boy, he's doing a great job for her.
Decisions and, chose what sex I wanted to be and what race I wanted to be, ethnicity I wanted to be. Then immediately they said, if you want this, you have to go right now. So it was like my parents were ready for me, right? So anyway, I flew out of the circle, and I remember looking back up And now I'm going down to earth. And I look back up and I saw the circle of beings. And I said, hurry up and come to the being that said that they were coming back down to be with me. And he said, don't worry, I'm right behind you. And so then I was born. Now,
can you imagine that? Oh, I volunteer. Yeah, I'll come with you. Yeah. All right. Hey, bye. Aren't you coming with me? Oh, I'm right behind you. I'll see you in a little while. Come on, dude. Come on. What the hell? Come on.
The thing that I realized studying, doing self-care and spiritual direction and that kind of thing, and healing touch, I realized that going down to earth, my heart's desire was not to be here. So we are electromagnetic.
All right, her heart's desire was not to be here, but she got swindled into it, just like we all have. We've all been taken for a cosmic ride of deception and manipulation. Think about it. One of the videos I did last year, early last year, I think, maybe the year, I think last year. Well, excuse me, it was a short video, about 20 minutes long or 18 minutes long, whatever it is. And near-death experiencers and pre-birth memories, they all say, almost all, I'm not going to say all, but a high percentage, and you've seen it on this channel over and over and over again. One of the biggest things they say is, I didn't want to come back, or I didn't want to go. Over and over and over and over and over again. And the top researchers in all these fields seem to just overlook all that. Oh, that's just because they just want to be back home. They know inside them they don't want to come. I'm sure we've all gone through this. Come on. It's out there, my friends. It's right in front of our face. We deserve so much better. We really do.
Was not to be here. So we are electromagnetic beings. So when I came into this life, I had a cardiac congenital defect that was all electrical. So the electrical part of my heart was not working. So I think that I really needed to take a look at that when I was doing all the studying and going through healing touch. And then I had to make a firm commitment because that I was going to stay here and do what I was supposed to do.
I was going to stay here and do what I was supposed to do. What is that?
Because growing up through my teenage years and in my 20s, and oh my gosh, I did so many risky things because I didn't care. I wanted to die. You know, I was going to have fun. And if I died, that was okay because I go home. That's what I wanted to do.
So see? So then she ends up, you know, that experience at 5 years old in the dentist's office at NDE, all she wanted to keep doing throughout her, you know, teens, 20s, I want to go home. I want to go home. So lives a more reckless lifestyle. I lived a more reckless lifestyle, I'll admit it. I knew I didn't belong here. I never felt like this was home, but I didn't know what home felt like either. I don't have any of those memories or anything to go off of. So it's a little different with me, but from as far back as I have memories for, I knew something wasn't right here. That's all I know, or knew for many, many years until you start living it, right? You live through this insane asylum And you start learning what it's all about. And what you can uncover is just horrible. It really is. And, I am not Mr. Downer. Remember, this information is supposed to be empowering. It's supposed to be helpful. It's supposed to give you the keys to your own kingdom, sovereignty and liberation. That is, nothing beats that. So, yeah, the information can get a little dark at times. That's why I try to put some sarcastic spin on it, some laughs, to try and ease the blows to this stuff. But there's no perfect way to present this stuff. There really isn't. We're in a very tough situation, and honesty and being blunt is important because you can't sugarcoat it. You just can't. So I just want to extend my hand out to everyone who is just coming across this information and say, yeah, some of it's gets dark at time, but we try to, really make it as digestible as possible, and never forget the empowerment that comes along with this. Seriously, my friends, it is so empowering. And there will be stages, like I've said, when I first started really going through this, it's like the stages of grief. It really is, because you realize what you once knew is, completely dissolved, and you kind of go into a completely new way of thinking, and you have to kind of go through those emotions, those stages of grief, and then you come out the other end like a warrior, relentless, empowered. And that's the positive part to all this. It just may take a little time, but I promise you, at the end, it's the best reward possible. Sovereignty and liberation.
I mean, I would skydive. I would scuba dive. I used to scuba dive with filming sharks, hitting shark. We were with the little scooter, and we were going down to some of the wrecks that had, that the sharks were living, and we scoot around with our scooter and film. And so we took films of it all, but, and dive in caves. I mean, I did some really risky things, plus risky things traveling overseas. So I realized that, no, I got to stop doing all this stuff and actually be present here.
I'm surprised they didn't give her like a shark bite too. I mean, I guess they missed out on that one, right? I mean, it's just, I feel so bad for Mary. I do. My heart goes out to you. If you ever end up listening to this, Mary, deepest empathy and compassion for you. We all deserve better.
And make a commitment to stay here on Earth.
Make a
commitment do what I'm
supposed
to do.
To do what I was supposed to do. Taking orders, not sovereign at all. Taking orders from exterior beings and thinking that they have a right to tell us what to do.
When I made that commitment, I started having more arrhythmias. And what happened was they finally came up with a surgery that they do all the time, quite a few of them a day, but they never had the cardiac surgery, which was cardiac ablation. They never had that before 1996.
And just think about it. Just saying, I know this one might be really reaching, but in this place, you never know. It just so happens that the surgery that she needs is brought into existence just in the nick of time. Just saying, make of it what you will.
So, so this was 1997 that they decided they needed to do that on my heart. And this was after I made the commitment to stay. So then the electrical defect was going to be corrected because I had made that commitment. So then and there were only 4 doctors on the East Coast that did this surgery. One was at Duke, one was at Johns Hopkins, and there were 2 here in Virginia Beach.
2. So she didn't, 4 available, and 2 were right in Virginia Beach, where she is. I mean, come on. I mean, that's great. I'm happy for her, but it's just, you got to love the convenience factor, right?
Which I thought was ironic.
Yeah, you see, even she says it.
Now, a lot of cardiac surgeons are doing it, as well as cardiologists. So anyway, I had the surgery, and it was a lot longer than they take now, but we were pretty much pioneering that. And because they put a catheter in your femoral artery, and so because it was there for so long that during the surgery, when they pulled it out, it ended up causing a deep vein thrombosis, a blood clot in my leg.
See, she still didn't get off easy. Can you believe this? Mary got handed one of the crappiest life scripts you can imagine. Some of us thought we had it bad, but Mary's been handed a bill of goods. Does anyone out here think Mary deserved that? I mean, come on. The New Agers will tell you different. All the top researchers will tell you different. It's common sense. It's in our face. And yet there's only really 3 of us talking about it, research-wise. And again, I want to give a shout out to Wayne Bush at trickedbythelight.com. Please check out Wayne's site. It is a cornucopia of information on the Soul Trap. Also, don't forget to check out Dan at overwatchproject.com and Overwatch channel here on YouTube. And he's also over on Odyssey at Overwatch Project. So go check both Wayne and Dan out. Tricked by the Light and Overwatch Project and Overwatch channel.
And so and the other thing is the cardiac surgeon said that when they go in, there's a risk that they don't find where the activation site is, and they may have to go what they call transeptal. So they go through the septum of the heart, and if they do that and you start bleeding, then they have to open you up and do open heart surgery. But coincidentally, I had a hole in my heart in between the septum. So they were able to thread the catheter to the other side of the heart very easily. And then he checked to make sure, because usually that closes up when you're an infant, but mine did not close up completely. So that could have also been a reason why I was a blue baby. But
just think about the bill of goods she's been delivered. This poor woman.
Regardless, it worked its function. and so then after 3 days after, well, actually they knew that I had a blood clot the next morning. And so they just watched me for 3 days. And then after 3 days, they put me back in the hospital and decided to do heparin and put me on Coumadin, discharge me on Coumadin. So they did that. And that was in February, the first part of February. in 1997. And so being a nurse, you go back to work and you take your Coumadin and, you continue on and move forward and you don't think about it anymore, And then I noticed my belly starting to get, a little larger. My pants weren't fitting quite right. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I need to start losing some weight, And so it just kept, for a whole week, it kept getting bigger and bigger. And I happened to be going to a conference in Richmond, which for those of you out of state, it's about 90 minutes away from Virginia Beach. And we were having a conference. It was an all-day conference. And I went with 6 other girls. So I was not driving. So we got to the conference and it was an energy conference. So you were able to get some work being done. But at the end of the day, my abdomen was so killing me. I was starting to have pain with it. And still didn't even think about what it might be. And during one of the sessions, I felt this huge energy shift. And I thought, I wonder what that's about. So I went on, but I couldn't eat. I ate some lunch, but I felt like at dinner time, I felt like I was still full. So the girls wanted to eat, so we stopped and ate. So it put us back here to Virginia Beach very late. It was probably about 11:30 before I finally got home, but I could not wait to get home. I was in so much pain now with my abdomen. And my daughter got off work and she came in, and now it's about 12 o'clock. And she says, I have to go make an appearance at this party because we were taking one of the girls out to going over to their house and celebrating her birthday. And I will come right back. I'll be right back. And she says, I'll just make an appearance and leave. I said, well, if you're going to do that, can you stop at Walmart and pick me up a Fleet's Enema? Still not thinking, maybe I'm constipated or something. My abdomen was in a lot of pain. After she left, I could barely even move around. And so she came back like in 30 minutes and she tells this story too. Here I'm in Walmart at 1 o'clock in the morning buying a Fleet's Enema and Correctol. It was quite comical. We laugh about that now. But she came back. By the time she came back, it was about 12:30. I was going in and out of consciousness. And so she goes, oh, this is not right. I'm calling the doctor. So she called the doctor. As soon as she gets on the phone with the doctor, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm probably bleeding internally. And, and I've probably been bleeding all week. And it's slowly but surely, but I'm still taking the Coumadin. So it was really, really significant bleed. And so he says, get her to the nearest hospital. And so she called 911. 911 came. And when they got there, there were 2 young, I don't think that they were EMTs yet. They were, they weren't paramedics yet. They were probably EMTs that were just starting out. And so the guy called them on the radio and said, my ETA is only 5 minutes. Do you want me to come? And I felt the inside of me said, yes, tell him to come. But you could tell he wanted to do things himself. So he says, no, I've got it under control. So my headboard and footboard were very high, I could not get over them. You know how some people can slide down the end of the bed and go over your footboard. I couldn't. It is very high. And the the window next to my bed was very close. So he could only put the stretcher in there, and he couldn't be there. It just had to be the stretcher. You couldn't go around it. And on the other side was a dresser that only, a person could walk through. So he kept trying to pull me down to the end of the bed. And every time he sat me up, I'd pass out. So I kept telling him, I said, no, you can't do this. My daughter came in and she said, this isn't right. You're not going to be able to get her over there. And I'm thinking, there's no way he can lift me up and put me on the stretcher.
So it's just all sorts of chaos. Like, hey, you can't even get to her and help her properly, like on the scene.
Well, what happened was he pulled me one time, and I went down. Immediately when I came to, I knew the next time I was going to die. I knew it. It was like, this is time. It's time. And I was ready. I was ready. I looked at my daughter and I told her I loved her. And then I said, take me, God, I'm yours. As soon as I did, instantly, I was in the light. I was in the...
Boom. Now, we've seen cases. I know I've gotten comments where a few of you out there get really freaked out when someone is instantly in the light. Well, what did she do? Listen to what she did.
I looked at my daughter and I told her I loved her. And then I said, take me, God, I'm yours.
Take me, God, I'm yours. Just throwing the sovereignty to the wind. It's way back there. It's destroyed. And she's opening herself up to immediate access to what she perceives as God. And of course, she has her whole life leading back to childhood that set her up for this moment, right? God, take me, I'm yours. Giving away, exactly, consent, intention, it's all there. She did it to herself. We can't do this. That's why when people sometimes, not always, but when people are really down and they do something like call out to Jesus, they can receive a miracle. But they receive a miracle or a visit or something to ease their pain or change the situation. But it's those really, really high pressure or extremely low moments in life where they are so desperate at their wit's end, with stress, pain, agony, fear, whatever, that intention is so pure and so forceful that the Matrix delivers it to them. See what I mean? It's there's no difference here. She gets, a one-way ticket instantly to the light because she requested it with her intention and it consented. It's nuts, but there's the answer right there because it's due to her open admission of what happened.
As soon as I did, instantly, I was in the light.
Instantly.
I was in this beautiful mist, like you're going through a cloud. And I'm floating through this mist that felt unconditional love. This bliss of no more pain, no more worrying, there was nothing. There was just this beautiful white mist. And it's a white that you can't explain. And I thought to myself, I wish this mist would clear up because I'm just going through this mist. It was like a cloud. And all of a sudden it was crystal clear and beautiful. And I was in this sea of just this white light. I was part of the light. And I knew, I didn't see anybody, but I knew that there were angels there. There was my mom and dad were there. Some of my cousins that had passed over were there. I felt like all the ascended masters were there. I knew that Jesus was there. I knew that Abraham was there.
See this is where it this is where it like took a turn for me and like got my, you know, red flag radar going off a little bit. But I am not going to judge that because we don't know. Like, you got to take into account that if she fell into the new age prior to this experience, she's got that in her head. She's got that in her mind that those beings will be there. And, you know, she's saying, I knew that they were there. So, you know, I am, you know, everything up to this point, this was like one of the moments here that really got my, you know, radar peaking a little bit. So make of it what you will. You know, I am certainly not discounting everything else up till this point. But this one little segment is questionable. I am not, again, I'm not doubting it. I'm just saying that it's just something to consider. Don't throw away the whole experience because of what I'm saying here. You know, because, you know, she went to Edgar Casey's, the ARE, you know, and did a speech there. I mean, so there's a lot of things here going on that, you know, if you fall into the new age and you think, you know, you're going to see the ascended masters and Jesus and Archangel Michael and all these other things, well, you have a later on experience after that knowledge comes into you. No matter how true or false that knowledge is, well, the Matrix is going to give it to you. I mean, that is how this place works. Consume, assume, intention, consent, they give it.
Masters were there. I knew that Jesus was there. I knew that Abraham was there. And I knew that they were all part of me and I was part of them. It was a oneness.
It's a oneness. So here we go with the oneness. You know, we are one. We think the Matrix, I mean, that, you know, do we all come from one source? I don't know. And I don't pretend to know, and I say that readily. Some of my earlier videos on this topic, I thought, you know, even merging with source or going back to source or going with the creator was the thing to do. But I don't know what that is. And my whole feeling on that has changed drastically. And you can see that through the evolution of my videos on this topic. So I'm just throwing up my ears and saying, I don't know. For all we know, we've always been and always have been and always will be. Maybe there isn't one root source. We've been programmed to think that that's the case, but we really don't know. We don't know. Like, one of the biggest programs here is this whole God creator narrative. And all these NDEers, all these experiencers say time and time again, you know, hey, I was with God. The light is God. The light is Jesus. The light is Muhammad. The light is Buddha. It's the Grand Pumbaa. Pick the experiencer. The light is always interpreted as God itself. And I'm telling you one thing. The light is not God. The light is not the creator of this whole multiverse realm. The light is the deception. And all the false lights and all this stuff. It's an endless path of deception. And all we have to do is think back and say, okay, sovereignty and liberation. Taking it back to our core, our true essence, who we really are, and not thinking that we have to go merge or join with anything or give our sovereignty or even communicate with any of these beings that we know nothing about. We know nothing about them. We don't have enough connection to know. And then we're expected to just do as we're told when we leave here and before we get here. No. Doesn't work that way. You don't get to mind wipe me and us lifetime after lifetime where we have no recollection of where we came from, why we are here, where we are going, and then dictate the terms when I leave here and that I have to come back here. No. It's the time for us to stick up for ourselves and go our own way, do our own thing, and not answer or interact with any of this stuff in any way, shape, or form. They don't deserve it. They haven't earned that right. If anyone deserves to be questioned and grilled, it's the whole system that's going on here and in the astral that's linked to it. They are the ones that deserve to be questioned and bossed around, not us.
And I came to realize that I was in the dimension of oneness. And so I'm just basking in this light, in this beautiful feeling of surrender and caring and non-judgmental. And it's just wonderful. Then all of a sudden I look up to the left side of me and I see this brilliant light beam. It's almost like, when you look at a light bulb itself, either you see the aura around the light bulb or else you see the radiation of the light bulb. Do you all get that? Do you know what I'm talking about? Well, there was this light beam that had this radiation that came out from it, just beautiful rays, white, just powerful rays. And as it came closer to me, I all of a sudden couldn't look at it. It was just way too bright and too brilliant. And as it came closer and closer, it stopped. And then I was in this radiant of the streams of radiation coming off it. And it was all knowing, all powerful, all loving, almighty. It was not judgmental. It was God.
Whoa. Back up the truck. It was all loving. Okay. Yeah, we know that happens all the time. It was God. Listen.
Not judgmental. It was
non-judgmental.
God.
It was God.
Felt it was God.
I felt it was God. I felt it was God. Remember, you know how many people we've run across in NDEs that will say, I didn't see Jesus, but I knew it was him. I just knew it was Jesus. Or I knew it was God. Might not have seen God, but I knew it was God. I knew it was Jesus. I knew it was this one. I knew it was that one. Or if they see him, it's like some, the interpretations are different. I mean, okay, can't we come to a consensus on what the hell we're dealing with? Why is it so drastically different, depending on the individual? The answer is easy. And the top leading researchers all agree on this, and I do too. I'm not, I'm talking about the tippity top with NDE researchers like Moody, and then you have, the whole list, Pippin and all that. All right. So we've all come to the acceptance that the experience one has is customized to the individual. So who you believe God to be, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, whoever, that's what this reality presents to you when you pass on. Or if you have a near-death experience, or if you have a breakthrough trip and experience something like the light or whatever it may be. It's the interpretation that has been picked up by the individual at some point in their life. Now, they can even have a varying swing on what they believe in throughout their life, but if that programming is in there at some point in their life, they may revert back to it in their time of need, like an NDE, moment of trauma. And then the experience that they have is customized to them. And that has been proven. Like it's a fact. Okay. There's just so much evidence. It's not even funny. Now, are there some anomalies? Yes, but a very, very small percentage. And I put forth personally on this specific thing when it comes to anomalies that it has to do with lack of information, lack of questions for those individuals, maybe not getting to what might have been missing that they were brought up with. Or there's these subconscious things too. We can't eliminate the subconscious thinking. So someone could claim that they're an atheist, but maybe in the back of their head, like me, I experienced this actually, where I was always had this spiritual spark inside me, but I got so hoodwinked by religion, Catholicism, that I went the total opposite direction. And I know a lot of people out there have experienced the same. But in the back of my head, even though, atheism was making a lot of sense, this and that, I still had that doubt in the back of my mind. I still did stupid stuff like call out to God, like during really, really rough times, like, if there is a God, can you help me right now? You know what I'm saying? And I didn't have Jesus appear or anything like that, but I'm saying when it came to the extreme during my atheism phase, I still did that. So again, the lack of information that we have on some of these people can play a huge role, and we're just lacking that information, and it's such a small percentage. Again, anything with free will, and although limited free will, and this place and just this whole experience, the body, the realm, the pre-birth planning, scripting, the soul groups, and all the reincarnating, all this stuff, there's always going to be anomalies when you have some semblance of free will involved. And you're never ever going to get the full answer for every single thing. The point is it's, again, such a small amount of anomalies that it's a drop in the bucket compared to the overwhelming evidence we have in support of belief-based driven experiences that are customized to the individual when they have something like an NDE.
And as I kept wanting to look up, but I couldn't. I just couldn't. It was just too brilliant. So I wasn't going to stop trying. So all of a sudden, this robe, a maroon color, beautiful wine color robe, silk, dressed the lower part of the light beam. And then, so I was satisfied looking halfway up or a little bit up, And so I stopped there, and then again, the communication was all soul to soul. It was very deep. And all of a sudden, I was getting all this information, all this wisdom from this beam of light.
All of a sudden, what did she say? She said, I was getting all of this wisdom from the being of light. Remember, she called it God, not me. She called it. All these other people call it God or Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad or whoever. She said it, not me.
And all of a sudden, I was getting all this information, all this wisdom from this beam of light.
I was receiving all this information. Remember, all these NDEers say, well, not all, but many NDEers say, I was all knowing. I knew the answer to every question in the world. I knew it. But when you're really listening and paying attention to them, they give these little clues. I was getting the information. I was receiving the information. That implies an outside source. Outside source coming in. This is not something innate to her or the other experiencers. It's within a containment zone in the astral in relation to here that makes them feel like they're all-knowing, when in fact they're just connecting within the construct of the matrix itself.
I was getting, I knew why the universe occurred, how the universe occurred. I knew how the cosmos happened. And I kept saying, oh, that's why that happened. Oh, that's why that was done that way. Oh, now I understand. I mean, all this information about creation flooded into my mind. And I thought, wow, now I know, I understand all that. And when I did that.
Okay, you know what? That's a good, I mean, we've been going a long time. I got to take a break. We've been going over an hour and a half here. All right, so, you know, the fax machine rings or whatever. So what we'll do is just take a quick 5-minute break. We got much more to come. Hang in there with me, my friends. I'm trying to make this one as short as possible and letting it go. But like I said in the beginning of the stream, there is so much to unpack here. And we have not even gotten to the lioness attack yet. I mean, we got a little ways to go. And the crazy, I mean, seriously, this case is wild. Absolutely wild, fully loaded to the brim with information. So hang in there a little bit. I'll see you in about 5 minutes. Thank you. Thank you. Oop, what the heck happened here? All right. Wow. My mic levels felt like crazy. I hope it wasn't low during that last segment. Did the volume levels drop at all towards any portion of the last segment? You guys can let me know. I'd greatly appreciate it. I'm hoping it happened during the break when the dog was attacking me. Anyways, all right, but they look okay now, so that's what matters. And all right, so I just want to say a quick hello to Carl, Boopster, Joyce. Good to see you. Been a while. Hope you're doing well. Michael, Peter, TZ. TZ is new. Welcome. 15-foot Jesus in the house and seeking. All right, so just wanted to say really quickly, if you want some added extra content, each month I do monthly members live streams for levels 2 and higher. You can check out information in the description tab or the join button next to the subscribe tab. I also wanted to send out a reminder that I still get messages from quite a few saying that you're not getting notifications for the live streams. The best option I can say is to hit the notification bell for all, not personalized or none. That's the only way I really think they can get through. And even then, I still have people saying they're not getting them. So I also put notifications on Twitter and Instagram, usually about an hour before the show, and in the community tabs, both for the members and the regular part of the channel. So feel free to check those. Usually streams are on the weekends. Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or all three. Depends on the week. So, all right. So let's get back into it. I appreciate your patience. Still got a ways to go. We got to get to the lion attack.
It felt so normal to know that, and all that wisdom was shared. And then the light being said, I would like you to go back and do this certain thing. And my first instinct was, oh my, I want to please this God. I want to please God. Of course I'll go back. Of course I'll go back and do it. And there wasn't even a thought about not going back. It was like, I just wanted to please God. And so I was told.
Okay, key part there, right? She says, I just wanted to please God. So
going back, it was like, I just wanted to please God. And so I was told, you can stay here and take a rest and go back in a different incarnation, or you can go back now. And I said, I don't want to do this all over again. I'll go back now.
So see, they're offering her immediate immediate reincarnation. Or you get to go back to the body. She's like, no. I don't want to start all over again. I want to finish what I came here to do, my mission.
So, so then the beam of light started moving away, back out. And as it did, then I could look up. And for one split second, I thought to myself, am I going to be able to do that? And I asked, am I going to be able to do that? I never got an answer. It just kept on moving out, like trust. And
trust. Just trust it. Just, trust everything. Don't question anything. This is how we got into this mess. We keep trusting. We're too nice, too kind, too easily deceived. And they place this veil of forgetfulness over us, lifetime after lifetime. rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, hoping that we never find ourselves and liberate ourselves through sovereign means. Such a hatchet job.
So then I was back into this light, this oneness of light.
Peter.
And I thought of a tree. And every time I had a thought, I became that. So I became the tree. I was the tree. I was in the core of the tree. I felt the water coming up my roots into my trunk and out into my leaves. I felt the bark of the tree. I felt the wind in my leaves. I felt the happiness I felt communicating with other trees. I felt through my roots. I felt the bark that was on the tree. It was almost like feeling the skin. And
so, you know, I've covered a few NDEs like this. There was one of a teenager, I think he was like, 13 or 14, if I remember correctly. And he felt the same thing. He felt connected with everything. And then he went into the tree and felt what it was like to live like a tree. And there's been other cases like this too. So it's not that far out there. So just putting that out there. It's not far out there. I'm just putting it out there.
And then I thought, wow. But the most important thing I felt being the tree was that the tree has emotion. And that just struck me like, wow. I mean, you hear about plants and trees. They get better when you talk happy to them, positive thoughts, work with them. But to really experience the emotion of that tree was mind-boggling for me. And so then I
just want to say that I agree with her. You know, that if trees are very much, you can call it alive. There's something in them. There is an energy with them. Same thing with flowers, other various plants. Like, you can connect with them. I've experienced it myself, and so I say that based on experience personally. Now, I mean, some of the things I've talked about, you know, I don't want to ramble too much, so I'm going to let it play, but I'll try to remember to mention some of it towards the end in the interest of keeping things flowing.
It's mind-boggling for me. And so then I was no longer the tree. I was back in the light. So I thought, wow, this is neat. I thought of a dog. I became the dog. I was the dog. And I felt how happy and unconditional love dogs have. And it was just a wonderful feeling, and how really excited they get. I mean, like, if they could jump up and do somersaults when you come to pet them, that's how they would feel. And with excitement. So then I stopped thinking about the dog, and I was back in the light again. And so it was like that dimension of oneness gave me the oneness with everything I thought of. So then I thought of water. I became water. I was this one tiny little molecule in this vast ocean of water.
Okay, so interesting. Here we go again. Water coming out. I mean, how many times we brought out the examples of water? I mean, it's wild how much this plays some sort of significant role, whether it's an illusion or not. People are always comparing things with water and experiences. Not necessarily all NDEs. I'm just saying it's something we see in experiencer accounts across the board, many different topics and subtopics that link into this whole system that we can call the Matrix Reincarnation Soul Trap.
And I was floating back and forth, and I felt how it felt, this one tiny little molecule, how it felt to move, how it felt when the current goes and your flow, and you're just flowing. And it was so neat feeling. And then I thought to myself, wow, I'm just this tiny little speck in this big, vast ocean. And so we're just one tiny little speck in this whole cosmos. It's like, wow. And then
before she continues, I want to point out Mimetic Park says it's possible that the connection to plants and trees is through the water. That's a hell of a point. I never even considered that. And yeah, Dr. Emoto's work is awesome. Very, very telling and revealing. I highly recommend checking out his efforts. But yeah, I never connected that with our connection here on Earth. But as far as like the greater symbology of water, we see the water represented in the astral regularly. So you have the two components here, and what we got to do, we got to drink water every day. Who knows what, I'm not even going to go there. We'll just continue.
So then I came out of that. I was back in the light. And then I thought, you know what? I want to feel the light. I want to feel how this light feels. All of a sudden, this surge of energy ran from my right to my left side. And of course, I'm just a bubble and part of this light, actually. And it just surged through me. And I thought,
part of this light, and it just surged through me. So that's some sort of connection to her. Part of the light surged through her.
And it just surged through me. And I thought, oh my gosh, this feels so good. I could stay here. Well, I had already agreed to go back. So as soon as I had that thought, I was jerked out of there. And I was on my ceiling watching the watching the EMT work on me. And he was all by himself working with me. The other guy, it was like I had an expanded view of everything. I saw the other EMT in the ambulance pulling stuff off, IVs and stuff off to bring upstairs. And then I felt my daughter. I saw my daughter downstairs on the phone, hysterical, just so emotionally distraught, saying to my brother, "Mom's dead, Mom's dead." And then I thought, well, I really don't want to go back in that body, But the paramedic just kept going and going and poked me one time in the abdomen. And as soon as he poked me, the pain jolted me right back to my body. And I often wonder if it's really the electrical current when somebody shocks you that brings you back, or is it the pain that it causes that brings you back or shocks you back? I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting thought, right? I mean, the frequencies involved, the shock. As she alluded to earlier, we are electromagnetic beings. I completely agree with that. But we have like this, okay, so we have the human body, and then within inside of us, we can call them the astral bodies, the subtle bodies, whatever you want to call them. I can't say for certain how many there are, but it doesn't matter. The whole point is when you leave here at the time of natural death, you're shedding the body, obviously, and you're also making it known, using your intention to shed the astral / subtle bodies, however many there are, any and all. human body, subtle body, astral bodies, whatever, all encompassing. So that you're stripped down to your core true essence, your real you. And that real you is setting forth an intention to leave this entire matrix system to a realm of your own making, a void-like state of your own creation that cannot be infiltrated. You'll also have a shield up. That's the other important thing, is to make sure the moment you realize that you're outside of your body and have died, or outside your body at all, shield up, full protective gear, so to say, so that you cannot be infiltrated visually, audibly, telepathically, nothing, anything, zero interruptions, so that you can make a clean break to your own reality. And then all you do is just give yourself some time to recollect yourself, get the real you back, and then decide where you want to go from there. But I think it's really important that we figure out our strengths, our weaknesses, test our creator being abilities so we know where we stand. Have those memories come flooding back so we know where we've been, what we've done, how we got to that place we just came from here, how this whole thing transpired, what we fell for, so that it doesn't happen again. And approach going to other realities in the far distant future once you've collected yourself, once we've collected ourselves, so that we know, look, there are some terms and conditions, hard terms and conditions. I am never going to give even 0.00001% of myself in exchange just to have an experience. If you are requiring me to be veiled under the veil of forgetfulness, lifetime after lifetime, or whatever the case may be, in whatever reality it is, it's a no-go. Entrance denied. You put everything on the table, but remember that this is something far, far away. We need to make sure that we take care of us. We are number one, and that we don't fall into this trap again, this Matrix Reincarnation Soul Trap. We deserve so much better.
So once that happened, I came to, and I was diaphoretic and just totally really out of it. And so they took me to the hospital, and they found that I had a large intraperitoneal bleed. So I had been bleeding. So the majority of my blood was in my abdomen. So they started to pump me with, 5 units of blood, all at once. And then I had a blood transfusion reaction. So my throat closed up, and they had to, to take care of that with some epinephrine. And then when they finally got me to the ICU, and when they put me in the bed, I jerked my leg, because they had to give me not just regular blood, but fresh frozen plasma, which actually corrects your blood clotting factors, corrects your INR. And when they did that, of course, now the clot could get loose. And when they moved me to the bed and left the room, after they left the room, hooked me up, and then went out, then I moved my leg, kicked my leg to move it to one side. And when I did, it dislodged the clot, and it came up and broke off into 2 pieces, and I had bilateral pulmonary embolus. So then they all came running back in, and my O2 was 32, I think. And so they finally got that, they got it stabilized over time, and then they had to put in a vena cava filter. But the thing is I was still in this expanded state. So even though I was in my ICU room, I knew what they were saying at the nurse's station. I knew what they were thinking as they walked into the room. I knew it was just very, very expanded. And their how they felt. And so I knew when a doctor walked into the room, I knew either he knew what he was doing or he didn't have a clue, and which was interesting. And so then I was in ICU six or 7 days, and then was moved to the step-down unit. And when they moved me to the step-down unit, I still was getting a lot of information, but I ended up having because of the bilateral pulmonary embolus, I had pleural effusions, so they wanted to keep me in the step-down unit. So I was probably there about a week. And and I always kept my door closed because they were private rooms. And all of a sudden, I started feeling really, really nauseated and really sick to my stomach. I felt diaphoretic. I felt like my blood pressure was dropping. I felt just really sick, but I knew it wasn't me. And it was pretty quiet on the floor where I was. I mean, I didn't hear anything. And then that probably lasted for a good 40 minutes. And then all of a sudden, this yellow beam of light came into my room from the wall. And I knew right then that somebody had just passed over.
All right, so she's getting this connection. She knows. It's amazing how it can present itself. I don't want to drone on too much, but there are birds are a big symbol for when people pass in our lives. It's ridiculous how much you can find online about that. Cardinals are a big one. There was, my girlfriend mentioned this story to me. Shout out to my boo if you're listening. She mentioned a friend that she was with last weekend. Listen to this one. This one's nuts, but it's not surprising, right? Well, when you hear it. Anyways, she tells me about a friend of hers who lost, I believe, a grandmother or grandfather, and right after they died, this was just a few weeks back, there was a bird that was alone, like a little baby bird, chick, and it, the mother abandoned it, or something happened. Maybe the mother got killed, I don't know. And so this was right after her friend lost her grandparent, or one of her grandparents. And I think it was like the day after or something, with very, very close proximity, or the day of. And takes the bird home, starts feeding it, looking online how to take care of the bird. What's the type of bird? The mourning dove. The mourning. She's in mourning. So that was an interesting one. And I've shared my story with cardinals in the past, so we'll keep moving on. But my girlfriend told her, like, hey, what do you think about this? It's a mourning dove. And she's like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. But, keep an eye out for the signs after someone leaves and passes. You'll be surprised at some of the things that can occur. But just, pay close attention, and they'll reveal themselves. And it's all part of the Matrix system, sadly. So for as much good as that can be to help somebody in their time of need when they desperately need it, especially after losing a loved one, there's no way to say with any certainty what we're dealing with is that loved one. I've put forth that, Dan and I kind of differ in this, at least as of last I knew, that I don't think we're dealing with, like, when things like this happen, I don't think we're dealing with the real them. Maybe we are, or maybe it's just trying to get us to think that we are, to comfort us in our time of need, so to give us that false hope, even though it's very helpful in the moment. So just something to think about.
I was picking up their feelings. And so I said, just move towards the light. And so the being went out and I felt fine. I was just all of a sudden fine. And so then the nurse didn't come in for quite a while, but when she did come in, they knew I was a nurse and they knew I had worked over there at one time. So they knew me. And so she said, I said, did somebody just arrest on this floor? And she said, yeah. She said, I said, what did they arrest from? And she said, and I knew right away. I knew just by reading their mind. But she said, pulmonary embolus. And I thought, wow. And he had a single pulmonary embolus. And so I was very lucky again that I didn't have the problems that he did. So I knew right then I needed to get out of the hospital. So as soon as my doctor came back the next day, I said, listen, I'm a nurse. I've got to get out of this hospital. I have to sign myself out AMA or else you need to discharge me. I said, I'll take care of myself. But I was picking up way too much in the hospital that I didn't need to have for my healing. So
fair enough. I mean, I tip my hat to her for realizing that and doing what she needed to do to take care of herself in the moment. We all need to do that and realize, when things are too much or overblown or too much to handle, I guess you can say, even though I'm repeating myself, that's what we deserve. Hey, you want to fire me? You want to do what you got to do? All right. I'm looking out for me in this moment. Most bosses, if they have a heart and care about you, they're not going to prevent you from taking the time that you need if you're overwhelmed or things are rough in the moment.
I said, I promise I'll come back if something happens this time. So he said, okay. And I went home and so over time, there was a time where I was trying to analyze everything that transpired because it was just, kind of mind-boggling for me. And I didn't want to read any books on NDE. I didn't, because it was all new. It was all new to me, and there weren't a whole lot of books out anyway. And
see, I like hearing that. I really do. Like that's a big credibility booster for me.
Any books on healing for me, and I didn't want to read any books on NDE. I didn't, because it was all new.
She didn't want to taint the well.
All new to me, and there weren't a whole lot of books out anyway. And I didn't want to taint my own experience with what somebody else was saying. So I just kept it to myself, and I didn't share my NDE with anybody except for my family and my daughter. And then I just happened to be called to teach a healing touch class one weekend. in Washington. So, and usually I didn't say anything about my NDE, but during my introduction, I just felt like I needed to say it. And I told them that I had an NDE and, you know, and this is what helped change it, you know, was going through the training with Healing Touch, actually. And I didn't go into detail. I just stated that. Well, on break, this person comes up to me and she says, well, have you ever heard of International Association of Near Death Studies? And I said, no. And she said, well, there is an organization, and it was Diane Corian that was taking my class. And so she said, do you mind if you told me about your experience during lunch? And I said, no, that's fine. Well, the whole class then wanted to hear it. So that was really the first time and it was a shorter version. It was a short version. And that was really the first time I came out with it. But then because then Diane wanted me to get on the board and of IANS. I said, no, I'm way too busy. I can't do that. But is there a chapter or a group in Virginia Beach? No, there wasn't. Why don't you start one? No. And this was back in 1997 now. And, or actually it was 98, January 98 that I taught her. And then I said, no, but I'll go to one if somebody wants to start it. But it was going to be too much work. Well, 6 years later, I get this flyer across my desk from somebody that's trying to start the IANS group in Virginia Beach. And it happened to be the anniversary of my NDE. So I said, how coincidental is this? And
how coincidental is this? Boy, the Matrix life script is rearing its ugly head.
I guess I'll go. It was the very first one here in the area. And Cheryl Birch was running it or starting it through the ARE. And so I went, and nobody else there had an experience. So she asked me if I would present because she didn't have a speaker. So I told my experience. So that was the very first formal invitation that I took and had. So then, of course, she wrote me into being on the IANS board. And I was there until 2005. We actually held the international conference here in Virginia Beach one year. But that's that was still nagged me that I could not remember what creation was about.
Boom. It still nagged me that I did not know what creation was all about. Memory wipe. See? So, you know, some people say, oh, I remember all this. I remember, no, you don't. You remember very small segments of maybe a past life, maybe a pre-birth memory, maybe something that came to you while you were here through altered states of consciousness or whatever, dreams, astral projection, OBEs, breakthrough trips, on and on, NDE, on and on and on. But you don't remember all. Nobody remembers all, but they can make it seem like what they got was important. But how many times do we run into this issue over and over and over? The memory wipe exists in all forms. We experience it regularly. Just think about the times you wake up from a dream. Oh, I'm not going to write down this dream. I'll remember it. Boom. Gone. 15, 30 minutes. That thing is out the door. Probably less. NDEs. Same thing. Oh, they answered every question in the world. I knew everything. Blah, 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 blah. They come back. They don't know. They They don't know because they've been memory wiped. It's no fault of their own. It's just the way this whole system works. And we've all experienced it. We're experiencing it right now. We don't know the veil of forgetfulness. Remember, the veil of forgetfulness, we don't know where we came from, why we are here, where we are going. Some of us may think we know where we're going. Specifically, NDEers think that the light is home, the light is God, the astral is home, when in fact, it's just all part of this umbrella of the Matrix Reincarnation Soul Trap. And we deserve to stick up for ourselves and say, enough is enough. I'm taking control of me for the first time in who knows how many lifetimes. And I'm not going to answer to these parasitic entities who think they have the right to tell me what to do. Seriously, it's bonkers that this just keeps going on and on. And I really want to give a big thank you to Michael. Thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. Michael says, it's my grandfather's 92nd birthday. Just had an hour-long conversation. It's my grandmother's 92nd birthday. Just had an hour-long conversation with her. It's hard to bring up this conversation without derailing the connection. I understand, my friend. Hang in there. Try to talk about the memory wipe, really. I think that's like that's the thing that connects the most with everybody, because you can't deny it. Nobody can deny it. Everyone is living through it unless they want to pretend that they know it all. And I'm sorry, nobody does. Nobody does. So, ask Grandma, Michael, hey, think about it. Like, we come here. We don't know where we came from, what the reason is for being here. Yeah, I mean, like, you can hear some of these NDEs and the past life regressions, the life between lives, and even some of the breakthrough trips where they, finally think that they know the whole scenario, why they are here. But no, it's all smoke and mirrors. And then the next question is where are we going? Where do we go from here? And our immediate assumption is that the light is God. The light is, everything is love. That's a very limited perception for us, because don't we think that other things exist outside of this construct, or anything like right outside this construct? We can't think like that. We can't. We have to think bigger. We deserve to think better. I know I keep saying, yeah, we deserve this. We do. We all deserve better. But we deserve to think bigger, larger, outside of this entire construct. And trust me, the astral realm is part of it. And that includes the light. The light is not God. I promise you, the light is not God. This whole place is just a repetitive loop, and we keep getting stuck in it lifetime after lifetime, over and over and over again. We deserve so much better.
And I could not remember what I was asked to come here to do. And believe me, it really bothered me.
I could not remember why I was here, and it really bothered me. Imagine going through that much. Why didn't she get it at a young age? She had the NDE at 5. Why wasn't she given the answer then? No, she's stumbling through. She admits it. I'm not trying to put words in her mouth, but she admits to basically stumbling through life for the first 30 years, say less than 30 years, or her teens or 20s. Remember, she had it at 5. Her first experience was at 5, and all she wanted to do was go home. So she's like, oh, I'm just going to be a risk taker and enjoy my life. I'm going to have fun. She didn't know then. She doesn't know now. It's bothering her. We all don't know.
Remember what creation was about, and I could not remember what I was asked to come here to do. And believe me, it really bothered me. And
it bothers me. And whatever that reason is that you may get is bull. I'm sorry. That's just what's going on. We're all being taken for a ride.
So in that 6th year, I was going out to do a national presentation at Spinal Cord Injury conference on Healing Touch. And I was up late at night watching TV, and who comes on the TV is Raymond Moody. And
how convenient! The man who coined the term near-death experience. I love Raymond Moody. His research was massive in my journey. But who just happens to come on the TV but Raymond Moody? I mean, you can't make this shit up. I mean, it's just... I mean, this is, you see the life script just unraveling before you the entire time we're listening to her. It's nuts.
I thought, oh, and he happens to be at the University of Nevada. So
Andy just happens to be at the University of Nevada when I'm in town.
Right where I was going, right?
How convenient.
I thought, well, he's supposed to be the grandfather of near-death experiences, from what I understand. And I still had not read any books because I still didn't want to be tainted. I didn't want to taint my experience. And so, or influence my experience. So I called his office to see if I could get an appointment or see if he was in town. During the time I was there. And we were I was actually able to get an appointment with him and see him. So I spent an hour with him while I was there. And what he told me was the other thing that bothered me was I never had a tunnel. I never did the tunnel thing that a lot of the NDEers have.
Now remember, we went over this in the beginning of the episode. If you recall, remember what happened. Now, what Moody says, I don't like personally, because I feel we have a concrete reason as to why she didn't experience the tunnel. And what did she do? She called out to God. Take me now. She volunteered herself immediately, bypassing any possibility of her sticking up for herself. She gave herself away, consented to the experience via her intention, to who she automatically thought was God, and boom, she's in the light. No tunnel, so there's no way to intercept herself and stop things in her track. Remember, we've even seen NDEers where they're in the middle of the tunnel, assert their intention, and start going back. Or like they're stopped in the middle of the tunnel. But those are rare cases. But we see that when someone when someone sticks up for themselves, the whole thing changes. But the problem is the system is so manipulative and so deceptive that it has the capability of manipulation. Little entities can come in and mess with you. So the whole point is remember, don't let them even get the opportunity. And if something presents itself, you shut it down immediately so that you are the one in control. So just think about where this is going to go. When you listen to what she says, that Moody says, I think he's far off. Now, mind you, I respect his work greatly, but I think he's missing the connection in this experience because she herself called out to God and bypassed everything by blindly consenting to who she thought was God, which she already had a preconceived notion of was the light. And where is she sent to? The light.
And seeing their loved ones, and so he spent an hour with me. He told me a couple of things that I really thank him for, and one of them was that it may take you. Usually, it takes a good 7 to 10 years to integrate an NDE, and so I didn't feel so bad then not being able to remember it yet. All, those two parts of it. And then he said, and the tunnel, he said, usually people have a tunnel if they need to adjust from this world to the next world. So
see, if they need to be just. So people have tunnels if they're not necessarily calling out God's name or whatever the situation may be. They can call it the Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, whoever, God, and boom, the experience is kind of accelerated because of their consent and intention applied to the situation. So, it's even though he's saying that, like, I don't think, what I love about Moody is like he's big on Plato. I told you before how there's that video on Gaia. You can look it up after the show if you'd like, and I mention it regularly. I don't remember the name of it, but it's something about is there life after death? Or if you look up Raymond Moody and Gaia, if you check out it's a great interview, and it coincides a good portion of his life's work. Towards the end, he says, and when you finish your sentence here, you will move on, or something like that. But he specifically uses the terminology, and when you finish your sentence here. And Moody is big into Plato. So he obviously knows about Plato's cave. He knows about all of the kind of veiled references that are in those works. And he's openly telling you, but it's all the way at the end of the documentary. Just sitting there. Like, I put forth, I would love to sit down and talk with him, but he charges $300 an hour. And I would love to just kind of throw the questions there and really ask him what needs to be asked and hear his opinion. But I don't know if it'll ever happen. And he's getting up there in age too. I don't think, even if I had the opportunity, I don't think we got much longer. But you never know. Maybe it'll happen. I've thought about messaging him and saying, "Hey, would you take 200?" But I don't know. He's a busy guy, so. But it would be awesome to just be able to talk to him and really just, say, hey, given your experience, all this amazing research you've done, what do you think? Are we dealing with a mass deception? And I told you about the other time, and this was long while back, I mentioned how there was a conference that he spoke at. I think it was IANS. And there was a moment where he started talking about something and saying that, he met with the company, which, if you know anything about intelligence, that means CIA. And he says, I met with the company. It was the smartest group of people I ever met. And he goes, and they didn't tell me I couldn't say this, but I'm going to say it. And then he says it, and then conveniently, the tape stops, and then it picks up at the start of, like, the end of whatever he was saying and starting with the new thing. So there was a purposeful deletion of a segment of that conversation, and a bunch of other people in the comment section noticed it as well. And so and they say, oh, no, we just ran out of tape. We just need to switch to tape. Just conveniently at that one moment. No, anyone who believes them is nuts. But I've talked about before, and I will say it again. IANS is compromised. It's been compromised for a long time. So is Endorf. I'm sorry. They are. It is what it is.
So,
remember, they're like probably the most important gatekeepers of all out there. I'm just saying. They don't want alternative narratives peeping themselves in and raining on the parade. They just don't. It makes sense that something like this would be covered up. Why do you think we see so few hell-like NDEs? Not only are people scared to talk about them because they went through hell, they had a horrible experience, but it's also sugar coated. Imagine having a hell like NDE, and you come back and everything is like all the NDEs you're reading, almost not all, but almost all of them, 90%, 85 to 90% are love and light. I met God, I met Jesus, I met Buddha, I met Muhammad, blah, blah, blah. You know, I met, you know, Grandpappy Winston, mom and dad, and blah, blah, blah. The dog. And they're all great experiences. So then you have a bad experience and it's going against the grain of almost everything you're reading. And then you got to fight a system that doesn't want your story out there or tries to control you in some way. And they're sure as hell not going to give you a platform. They're not. I mean, just think about how demoralizing that is. So, you know, I can go on forever about that. I'm not going to keep going, but you get the point. Ugh.
And that was important to me. And it made perfect sense because I was ready to go. Remember, I said, take me, God, I'm yours. I was ready.
See, she even admits it. Take me, God, I'm ready.
So I didn't need the comfort of the tunnel. So
the comfort of the tunnel, the period, the moment when you can stop everything in its tracks and control yourself instead of being directly thrusted into the parasitical system that you think is God that sends you back here and on and on and on. It's no. Take control of yourself, sovereignty and liberation all the way to the end.
So that was good. And I thank him for it. So then the other part was I still wanted to find out, return to that memory of the creation as well as, oh, and that's the other thing he did tell me. He said, when you're ready, you'll start remembering it. And so I have slowly but surely started to remember some of it. But it's not fully there yet. But that was also good for me to hear from him. And so let's see, I lost my train of thought now. Okay, so anyway, so I still wanted to try to remember those two sections. So I don't know if you all have been able to hear Howard Storm with his NDE, but he spoke here at Virginia Beach Ions one time, and he explained that he could not remember some of his NDE. And so he went to this psychologist that did hypnotherapy, and he worked with him, and he remembered a lot of it. So I thought, So I called Howard and I said, who did you go to? And, I want to go. So he said, it was somebody in Ohio. So we're talking the late 90s now. I think it was 1999 that I went. And I spent 3 days with this psychologist doing hypnotherapy. And I remember all the events except for those two things that I really wanted to remember. So I'm just holding on to what Raymond Moody said, and just be patient. When the time's right, you'll start remembering it. So basically that was my NDEs and kind of my life.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is take a break, and we're going to get into the audio version where we get a little more in depth. And this is actually her account that she submitted to NDERF. It's Kelley's experiences, and we're going to hear more about the lion attack and kind of get down to the nitty gritty about that and everything that happened with that. And I'll also be posting the written text account that she submitted to them as we go along with it. So hang in there. We're going to get into some further details. We don't have much longer to go, but we're at 2.5 hours here. I got to take another break just for about 5 minutes and we'll be right back. But we only have about maybe 20-25 minutes tops with commentary once we come back. So much love, blessings. I'll see you in a moment. Hang tight. Got a lot of interesting stuff coming. Thank you. Okay. So, I think, yeah, we finished with the video. So we're going to move on to the next segment, which gets into let me just get this here. There we go. Okay. Now I just need to get one more thing up. All right, so we're going to get into Mary Kelley's submission. This is from Endorf, and it goes over some of the experiences that we already heard, but there's much more detail too, especially about the attack that she went through with the lion. So here we go. Just you can. I'm basically everything's going to be read from the on the screen, but in audio format. I just need to get this queued up, so bear with me 1 minute. Okay, so I just had to pause for a minute. I don't want to get hit with copyright, so here we go.
Experience is very interesting, not so much for the experience itself, but for everything surrounding the experience. That anyway, you'll see what I mean. Kelley says, first, dentist overdosed me on nitrous oxide. I first saw a purple skeleton at the top of the room, sitting on a stool with a cowboy hat on and strumming guitar, singing "The Guitar Man" by Brad. I was amused until I suddenly was up there where he had been, alone, and watching the dentist freak out, trying to revive me. Before I knew anything else, I was back in my body. Second, I had a very high temperature and a massive pelvic infection, and was later told I was talking to leprechauns before I died. That I do not recall. What I do recall, and can still recall, was finding myself in the blackest black, cold void, with a crushing feeling of being utterly alone, despair and loss. It was not at all what I expected it to be, as I was one of those little kids who grew up talking about living before, and had a very unorthodox view of religion from the earliest age. There was no sense of anyone else being there, no light, vast nothingness, and terrible. It seemed a short while, yet an eternity. I was physically taken up by a neighbor and taken to the hospital. The jostling revived me, as I was suddenly very happy to be back in my body and in pain. Third, this is all very vivid, even after all these years. I had gone out to the ranch to help lead a large group of people on a trail ride. It was a long day. We got home, and I had a terrible need, a command really, to return. I bathed and put on clean clothes. I had to talk to my husband, into going back. It was nearly 9 p.m. I told him that I had to go, though I did not wish to. Of course, I know it was my destiny. We went back, and a chain of events led me to giving it.
She said, "I know it was my destiny."
I told him that I had to go, though I did not wish to.
I had to go, but I did not wish to.
Of course, I know it was my destiny. We went back, and a chain of events led me to giving a tour of our African lion prides. I was compelled into an area I never went, and was attacked by a lioness that pulled me through a fence up to my shoulder. Everything...
A lion pulled her. And come on.
Into an area I never went, and was attacked by
an area that I never went, and she was attacked. So she's admitting that she was compelled and pulled to go. This is life script in our faces. Like, why am I, she says, she's admitting to herself, why am I making this decision to do this? Like, I wouldn't go this way. She didn't even want to go in the first place. She knew something bad was going to happen. That is so clear. But yet it still happened. That's the life script. That's the auto life script just working its quote unquote magic. Because that's what it is. It's deception.
Lioness that pulled me through a fence up to my shoulder. Everything went into slow motion during the attack, and I split in two, in that one part of me was conscious. The other was like a separate being, spiritual, but I knew it was my soul. After I was freed from the cage, I lost my ability to see anyone, just gray shadows on a sort of movie screen in front of me. People's feelings and fear, there were perhaps 20 to 30 people there, were palpable and threatened to carry me away like a tide if I gave in to it. To the right, on that screen, was coolness and peace. To the left, the panic and pain of those around me.
So what is she getting? She's getting duality. She's getting that, the love and light, and then she's getting the panic and pain on one side. I mean, come on.
One half of me kept telling those around me how to treat them. I'm a former EMT, and I recognized my voice. The other was fighting the desire to turn toward the right, as I believed that if I succumbed, the ranch would be in a lot of trouble and perhaps even sold. I sensed children there. Their shadows were more golden, and I was ordering people to get away from the spectacle. The ambulance finally arrived. I was still in this double state, telling them what to do, yet seeing nothing but those gray shadows and the emotions of everyone around. Then they said they could handle it, and I thought I could then relax. And as I did, I was sucked out of my body.
As I did, I was sucked out of my body. So she's releasing
Enough to still be in the ambulance, and finally I could see normal again. I saw an EMT pounding on my chest, slapping my face, etc., and my brother-in-law in the front seat turned and gawked, and the shock on my husband's face. The ambulance was bouncing over dirt roads at high speeds, and I thought, where are we? And was instantly above the ambulance, seeing and recognized how far from the city we were. I recall thinking, well, I'm dead. They can't get there in time. When I was sucked back into my body, being slammed around on the gurney in that cramped ambulance. We got to hospital and there were no doctors around, so it was again up to me to hold on. 4 hours later, a surgeon arrived and was taken into surgery, just as I was wheeling past my brother-in-law. I heard him say the same lion had attacked a little girl earlier that day. I gave in then, thinking all was lost. Fourth, I died during surgery, was revived and in a coma for almost 2 weeks, as they could not stabilize my blood pressure. I remember it so very clearly. The surgery death, I saw the operating room and the surgeons, but before I could think much more about it, I was swooshed into a place with 4 robed beings.
Swooshed into a place with 4 robed beings. Well, what do we know? Here come the robed beings yet again. I mean, how many NDs have we gone over with that? I mean, the robed beings appear as they seem to make a regular appearance. Of course, it depends on the individual, but here they are yet again.
No wings. There was an ethereal, beautiful whiteness everywhere. They spoke without speaking, like a chorus. Suicide is wrong. Love is all that matters. Shun those who have killed themselves. Over and over. I was aware of others there in this timeless space, but they were not the focus. It seemed I was there for a very long time. Now, what no one on earth knew at the time, I was heavily into Sylvia Plath at the time, hated my father-in-law with a passion, and was in fact suicidal, and had been trying to figure out a way to do it without it being obvious what it was. I was then taken to another place, like the most colorful park imaginable, and allowed to see my most beloved grandfather, the only real love I have ever known. And they let him stay.
The only real love I had ever known. So you see, we have an open admission as the grandfather's like the savior being. The grandfather is her source of comfort. And what does the Matrix do? Provides it to her. Just saying. It's very convenient. Remember, belief-based systems. She's telling us that this is who gives her comfort. The one that truly loved her and cared for her. Top of the list. And what does the Matrix do? Here's Grandpa.
With me during the entire coma period. It was splendid.
Roll out the Grandpa.
And they let him stay with me during the entire coma period. It was splendid. When I finally came to normal consciousness, my first remark was that Grandfather had been with me the whole time. As the days passed and my husband's family members were treating me like a loon or something, I started looking for earthly answers. I started asking if any man had been there that whole time. The answer was no. Not even my husband or other family members, at least not for more than a few minutes at a time, and they did not talk to me even then. That is the end of the experience. And I want to...
They did not even talk to me. Because remember, they had that Grandpa is the chief operating officer in this scenario. And then they go, you get a little bit in the distance. Little show.
Clarify, I think what she's talking about at the end there about people being there is that she, her grandfather was with her throughout the entire coma, just there all the time. And so she was probably thinking, well, if I was loopy, maybe it was somebody else, like my husband or somebody, and I was simply, seeing him as if he was my grandfather. But that turned out not to be the case. There was no one that was there all the time, and probably even the nurses and doctors were not present at all times, like her grandfather was, which is evidence that he really was there. But this is interesting because the first experience, I should say, seems ridiculous. I mean, it sounds utterly ridiculous. She sees this purple skeleton at the top of the room, sitting on a stool with a cowboy hat on, strumming guitar and singing "The Guitar Man" by Bread.
All right, what's crazy? I don't know about you guys. I mean, without giving too much away, I've been in a few dentists' office, and the two specifically that stick out in my head, they had skeletons on display. Now maybe that's just weird, or maybe you guys didn't experience it, but I did. So I don't know if maybe like there was an actual skeleton in the office of the dentist, and then all of a sudden it becomes animated when she leaves her body. I don't know. I mean, remember, she's 5 years old when this is happening. I mean, she's flirting with death. So what does the Matrix kind of do with children's NDEs? It makes it more childlike, more interesting. It's different than if you were to experience it as an adult. You have limited life experience, and so it can go like a much more toned down version, but also, not as connected, I guess you can say, like with the soul groups and the family and the this and that, because you really haven't had too much experience with other beings here, and they're most likely, and there's most likely a lot more to come. So they tone it down and make it more fun, more childlike. For instance, the case we covered with the boy who had the NDE, I think he was 6 years old, and he ends up going through the tunnel and feels that he like there's like a split in the road, so to say, a split in the tunnel, and he feels like he's going he like one tunnel led for humans and then the other one led for animals and plants and flowers, and he takes the one for the plants and flowers, and he ends up getting engulfed by a huge flower, and ends up like hanging out with like a bumblebee and stuff like that. I mean, it's, but he even said it, like, I think I went the wrong way. Like, I think I went to the animal where animals go to die versus where the humans do. It's a really, really interesting case. I covered a few of them. You'd have to dig back. I think it was sometime late last year, childhood NDEs. I think might have been a two-parter, but don't quote me on that. But you'll see the bee on the thumbnail, if that helps. It's on the door.
She said it was amusing until I suddenly was up there where he had been, watching the dentist freak out, trying to revive her. I'm not sure what to make of that, except that she did say it was amusing, so perhaps it was a spirit just entertaining her, or just, making her laugh or something, It sounds like she was not troubled by this. I mean, I think I would be in my earthly mind anyway, but separated, and maybe, in spirit form, even if not, bound to my body at the time, maybe I would see that as amusing. I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of it. And then the second part, she says that during a very high temperature and a massive pelvic infection, she was told that she was talking to leprechauns before she died. And
I mean, again, like, it's not that surprising that you would maybe hear something like this, where these beings have been around. Like, yeah, we can go, ha ha ha, leprechauns, blah blah, but these are entities that we have reported stories for many, many, many decades. Goes way back. And we can even kind of wrap this into a question that was asked earlier. If you just bear with me one moment. I'm just going to try to get to it. Someone asked about the Greys, I believe. Says, Arthur Hearing asks, hey guys, I'm new to this, though I've heard of the Soul Trap before. Has there been any connections done between this subject and the Gray Aliens? I have done a member stream, which is available, about the alien, quote unquote, alien or parasitic entities and the crossover between near-death experiences. But just to touch on this briefly, I strongly feel that the connection between what we perceive as the gray aliens and all these different types of quote-unquote races that are perceived to be aliens are just our modern-day version of the Fae or the Jinn or whatever you want to call it. And we can classify that under the leprechauns back in the day, all right? Or, again, the fairies, the Sasquatch, all this stuff. And it all kind of, these are just entities or perceived entities that come and mess with humanity in some form. So I don't believe aliens come from in a far, far distant alien galaxy or from other planets. I don't. I think all of it is native to Earth. And their number one job is to mess with us. So make of that what you will, but that's where my research has led me. So
I don't know what to make of that either, other than it sounds, kind of in line with this purple skeleton playing the guitar, man. I mean, it's ridiculous. And yet, this is her experience. And, well, that she doesn't actually remember, if I'm understanding this right, because she says, that I do not recall. talking to leprechauns. So it could be that she was in a dreamy, loony state prior to her death and was talking to leprechauns in this kind of loony state. But shortly after that, she finds herself in the blackest black, cold void, which sounds very much like the void. Now, this is interesting because she finds it disturbing to the point that when she did get back to her body, she is happy to be back in. She says, I was very happy to be back in my body and in pain. As long as she's in pain, she's not in this dark, cold place. And I'm not sure why it is that some people experience the void as an unpleasant place and others find it a wonderful, comforting place. But I suspect that just having a knowledge of it would help. So all of you out there that are aware of this void that many people experience, good, bad, regardless, many people experience a black void, and usually those who are familiar with it or choose to be comfortable with it will ease into it, and then they will start looking for a light. And usually when they start looking for a light, they see a pinpoint of light, and it starts approaching them. Or they start...
All right, hear that? Let's rewind. Let's back that up just a little bit.
Experience a black void, and usually those who are familiar with it or choose to be comfortable with it will ease into it, and then they will start looking for a light. And usually when they start looking for a light, they see a pinpoint of light.
Okay. Yes, that's very true. Very true. But sometimes the light is there. It's just sitting there. So all hell could be breaking loose around them. But if they look in one certain direction, or they're kind of zoned in on something while they're getting their ass kicked, then that pinprick of light can give them it can give them love. It can give them solace, peace, all that stuff. So it's a very slippery slope. So if you think about it, really, what we're looking at is two sides of the same coin. They're playing off of one another in hopes that you will make a decision to go with the light, with either direction. Either way, as long as you're trapped within the confines of this matrix system, it's got you. It's got you. If you don't think that you can assert your sovereignty and liberate yourself and get out of this situation, well, it's got you. If you don't feel that you're this all-powerful creator being who can call the shots at will, it's going to get you. If you think that you have to answer to something, it's going to get you. You don't need to. Remember, you're powerful, you're strong, you're sovereign, and you can liberate yourself if that's what you want. Don't give in to these things, because all they're doing is just playing two sides, and they don't care what side you pick. I mean, I'm sure they all they want is you to come back here, or at least be a cog in the wheel of the matrix system at a minimum. And eventually they're going to get their way. Just think about what we saw with Mary earlier on. What happened? She's hanging out by the tree. And what's even crazier is, I just realized this, is Mary Kelley's sitting by the tree with 8 beings. And I interviewed the woman, Mary, the lifelong experiencer. We talked for over 5 hours. And I know I mentioned her earlier, but in that case, her name is Mary. And she was basically tapped to come down here and live another life, and that she had a mission and had to do this and that. Same exact type of thing, and same name. Wow. That's all I got to say. It's like, it should stand out. It's like red flags all over the place. We just need to stick up for ourselves and say enough is enough.
And it starts approaching them, or they start approaching it. And so if you find yourself in a completely black void and don't know why you're there, just out of the blue, I mean, because let's face it, a lot of these people, they don't remember the incident that led to their death. They may be driving down the road, normal everyday thing, and the next thing they know, they're in this black void because they don't remember the accident that they were in or whatever. And if that's the case...
They don't remember. They don't remember. How convenient. Memory wipe. How convenient. They don't remember. Yeah, let's just explain it away. Everything's fine. No big deal going on here. Nothing to see. Nothing to see.
If you find yourself just all of a sudden in a black void, just look for the light. It'll come. Whether immediately or after some time, it'll come.
Horrible advice. Horrible advice. No, don't desire the light. Don't reach out for the light. If you're in the void, well, we've talked about it earlier. You know what to do. Just don't submit to any of this. You go to your own created void. You are protected. It's your own realm, incapable of being infiltrated in any way, shape, or form. You're shielding up, taking care of yourself, not allowing outside influences to take advantage of you ever again. And then working from there. Once we've all collected ourselves, reconnected with our true spirit essence, and move forward to whatever the situation may be. I don't have the answers to that. I'm sorry. I wish I did, but nobody has the answers to that, where things go from there. But all we do know is that, if it's like a sensory experience, something's wrong. Because that links to here. It's under the whole umbrella of the Matrix.
And then the third experience she has, it's like each experience becomes a little bit more pleasant, I guess. And the third one, this is something that I'm assuming this is probably in Africa that this is taking place, just based on the her running a game park, I think she called it. And I know they have game parks in South Africa where they have lions and so forth. So I'm assuming that it's probably something like that, probably in Africa. And it's interesting that she feels inspired or destined to go back to this park and then gets attacked by this female lion. And
well, let's just clarify. Seriously, let's clarify what was said. She even told her husband, "I don't want to go." She felt compelled, almost, and she used another word too. I don't remember what it was, but almost like forced, like she had to go. And then what happened? She went into an area that she never went to and was attacked. The whole thing has life script painted all over it. She told her husband, "I don't want to go." She goes, and then all of a sudden she feels compelled to go, and compelled to go into an area that she never went to and was attacked by a lioness. Talk about a hatchet job. Talk about a setup job. I mean, it's just so blatant in our face. So no, there's no excusing this away. No, enough is enough.
Wow, of all the ways to go, how many people are killed by lions? I mean, these days it's not all that common. But anyway, she finds herself in part in her body and part out of her body, and she's having trouble focusing. It's like she's kind of in this in-between state where she's talking and telling the people, "You've got to do this, you've got to, get me there, whatever." And then the other part of her is aware that there is a light inviting her to come. And she is kind of torn between the two.
A light inviting her to come. "Hey, you haven't seen me in a while. Hey, it's God here. Step right up. I'm going to make you nice and comfortable. We'll get you nice and relaxed. Oh, but wait. Sorry, you got to go back. And then when you come back, you're going to have to do it all over again. Eventually, we'll get you by the tree, hanging out with your buddies. And then just think about to the beginning. Go back to the beginning of the stream and think about the moment where she's like, okay, I volunteer, but only if someone could come with me. And then the entity that's going to come with her is, she's going down to Earth, and the entity's like, oh yeah, I'll be right there. I'm right behind you. And the entity's sitting up top. I mean, come on. How much more obvious can the deception get? It's in our face. The entity played her like a violin. And we've all fallen for this. Mary's no exception. We're no exception. We're all guilty of this. That's all. So we just say, okay, that's it. We draw the line. We're standing up for ourselves. And that's the bottom line. No ifs, ands, or buts. Sovereignty and liberation all the way.
But there comes a point, she's shouting and stuff, you got to this and that. And then she says, and then they said they could handle it. By then the ambulance was there and so forth. They could handle it. And I thought I could then relax. And then as she did, then she sucked out of her body. There is something about giving in. I don't want to say giving up, because that's not fair. We're all going to die one day. And is it giving up if you're dying and give in to the dying? I don't think it's always fair to say it's giving up. But I do say that, there's going to come a point where you're not going to be able to hold on any longer. And it sounds like often we hold on longer than we need to. And
There's a difference between holding on and being attached to our existence here versus standing up for ourselves and asserting our sovereignty and liberation. Huge, huge difference. And we do not have any accounts to tell us about that. Okay? We don't. And the reason we don't is because they don't come back. They're not stupid enough to come back and share it with the world, because you know what? What's going to happen? They're going to get memory wiped, and on and on and on. I mean, come on. It's we just got to stick up for ourselves. Enough.
No, whether had she let go much earlier, would it have been a problem? Would she have died finally? We just have no way of knowing. There's no way to tell. But she does find herself in this ambulance, and as they're going, she's sucked out of her body because she relaxes, basically, just kind of, okay, we'll just go with whatever happens, And so she finds herself out of the ambulance looking down. And you might think, okay, yeah, she's just there. But it's interesting to me that not only does she find herself hovering over the ambulance, but the thing that incites that hovering over the ambulance is that while she's laying there, she asks herself, where are we? And true to spirit form, it seems that when you ask a question, the answer comes, or at least
the answer comes outside. Remember, coming outside. We hear all the time. I know we just rehashed this earlier in the show, but we're hearing over and over people saying, "Oh, I'm all knowing. I know everything. I knew the whole history," but yet they come back here, they know nothing, barely anything. All right. So let's not. This is information that is being given to them. It's being received into them, and they think that they are all knowing as a result of it. No. Nope.
some, hint toward the answer, something or other. And when she asks, where are we? She says, I was instantly above the ambulance, seeing and recognizing how far from the city we still were. So she sees the answer to her question, where are we? That's interesting. And then she finds herself back in her body again, sucked back in pain, and then she goes into coma. And during this coma, she goes into surgery. And during surgery, she goes into a coma. And because they can't stabilize her blood pressure. And then as she is swooshed off to this place, she says, I could think much more about it. I was swooshed, well, before I could think much more about it, the operation going on and so forth, I was swooshed into a place with 4 robed beings, no wings. There was an ethereal, beautiful whiteness everywhere. This is the closest that I think she gets to the spirit world, you might say. You know, I mean, you could argue that the spirit world is all around us, and yes, it is, and so forth, but it seems to be the one time that she finds herself to some level in a place separate from this earth that is beautiful and white and ethereal and so forth. And there's these 4 robed beings, and they're singing to her or speaking like in a chorus. Suicide is wrong. Love is all that matters. Shun those who have killed themselves. Now that seems like a strange message for this person who died from getting attacked by a lion to receive, except that, as she says later, she was indeed suicidal and had been trying to figure out a way to do it without it being obvious that it was a suicide. And so she's being told, don't do it, don't do it. And surrounded by love. And then
Surrounded by love.
Finally, as she's in this coma and in the hospital, it's unclear whether she is pretty much conscious the whole time or if she's just kind of in and out or what, but she does say that she was taken to another place like the most colorful park imaginable and allowed to see my most beloved grandfather, the only real love I had ever known.
The only real love I had ever known. Just like we talked about earlier, it is, remember, I mean, this is who she connects with. So remember, belief-based driven systems. All the top researchers agree with this. You know, I'm not certified as a top researcher, but, you know, the ones that are well educated and researching this topic for decades all agree that belief-based driven systems are what will mold the experience in which a person has. And this happens on and on and on. Okay. So I think that's going to wrap up the portion of the NDEs. I'm going to head on over to the questions. So thank you for your patience here. I'm not going to be able to stick around too long. We've been going a while. I also wanted to just give a big shout out to our good friend Jimmy, who is constantly helping out the channel. He's got some great music going on. And I'm going to drop that link in there. So check out Jimmy's music by going to audiomac.com/wiggly pudding and /MIA. So yeah, check that out. And yeah, go send him some love. He's done a lot to help out here, both during the streams and behind the scenes. He's my brother. I love him. I care about him, and he deserves to thrive and have his music be heard. So anyways, so let's get to the questions. I know we covered one already. There's only a few tonight, but let's see what we got. I just want to give a big thank you to Ken Albert again for the super chat, and Michael for the super chat. Thank you so much. And okay, we talked about Arthur's question. Talked about Michael's question. Let's see. Okay, I think we only have one after this. Carl Chameleon says, interesting thoughts on the Greys and ETs. So do you think ETs occupy other planets, solar system, galaxies, multiverses? I mean, I can't really say on anything on that. I feel that so what we were talking about, the Fae, the Leprechaun, the Jinn, the Greys, all these alien quote unquote races that we hear about regularly, I think they're all part of the Matrix construct that we're involved with, right? I don't think that they're I don't think they're coming from anywhere outside of here. Now, can they be doing the bidding of the Matrix outside of here and across the multiverse, or however you want to term it? Sure. I mean, I leave it on the table. I mean, this system that we're dealing with is very sophisticated, but I mean, there's no way to say either way what's going on. So we're really kind of stuck twiddling our thumbs. I think what the Matrix does is there's a whole deep thing that's involved with the Greys. There is evidence of the Greys being depicted in old caves and stuff like that, things that do represent the Greys. Now the problem is it from my personal opinion, is that it leads to the whole alien narrative. Some of those depictions look a little too fresh, so to say. Now, am I anyone to judge it and say, I can't go to the caves, and I'm no expert in carbon dating and all that stuff, so I don't know. But, it does seem like there's a possibility that these things have existed prior to the alien narrative. But on the same hand, that evidence is thin. It's thin. But we can't discount it either. And then, of course, there's roundabout descriptions. No, I'm not even going to say it because I don't even think it's really that valid. So I'll leave that one alone. But then there's a huge occult rabbit hole that you can go down that involves NASA and Crowley and Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard and all this stuff, and Crowley's property out by the lake there. I mean, and of course the sketch drawing from Crowley and all that stuff, and it depicts something that it looks like the modern day gray alien. I mean, and you go back and you hear all these stories about Roswell and this and that, and personally, I do not buy into the Roswell story. I think it's an op. Okay, but at the same time, if you throw that away, you still have the Crowley factor and the summoning. I forgot the name of the being. It was like Uwa, or excuse me. I'm sure some of you in the chat would know what it is. Anyways, it's, if you look it up, Aleister Crowley and the gray and the alien, you'll see it. Like, he sketched it out. And and then of course there's like a whole rabbit hole with Jack Parsons and in relation to the atomic bomb, and like it goes into the deep occultized stuff with that. I mean, it is some wacky stuff. Now, again, like the evidence that was before all this is thin, but there's something out there, and we are told that it goes way back. Now, Lamb. Yeah, that's it. Lamb. That's the name of the entity that Crowley drew. So, I mean, if you go way back and you just accept it for what it is, okay, fine. But I don't believe that they actually came from some other planet. I don't. I think they're native. I think they're part of the programming here on Earth. I don't think, I mean, I'm talking about within the confines of the whole Matrix system. Sure, maybe they can trick and deceive and manipulate us in many different ways, but can they kind of breach that outer layer and suck people in that way or deceive people that way? I leave it on the table, but I don't know. I think they're more, there's nothing really behind them. I think they're actually like more like an AI. Especially the Greys. I mean, everything I've looked into about the Greys, they seem more like automatrons. They have no feelings. They don't care about anything. It's just whatever their objective is that's what they want to get done. And then, of course, you have the tricksters like the Fae and all that stuff. And that is so well documented, it's not even funny. It just seems like we're dealing with our modern day version of it. And the Greys and all these quote unquote alien races like the Mantis and all that stuff. It all seems to be part of just trickster system that's here. So that's my opinion on it. I really don't have much else to add to it, but I'm open to it. But there's no way to really answer that. So, alrighty. So let me see here. I know I saw something here. Where'd it go? I know I saw just one moment, my friends. I know I saw something. I apologize. Just bear with me one moment here. I think YouTube isn't pushing it through properly. Okay. All right. Well, in the meantime, while I'm trying to figure this out, I'd like to give a message to let you all know that I do have 2 YouTube backup channels, and I also have YouTube memberships. If you'd like some extra content each month, you can join the Last Timers Club. Levels 2 and higher get the live streams. We do one once a month, and there is a backlog of topics available dating back, I don't know, I think we've been doing it 8 months now. And yeah, it was... yeah, there's a lot of great topics. I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting a little tired here. It's almost 2 a.m. I also have a Twitter and a Twitch and an Odyssey and an Instagram. I try to send out notifications on Twitter and Instagram about an hour before each show. And if there's an interview coming, I'll sometimes give maybe a day's notice. And the same thing applies for the community tab. And if you do become a Last Timers Club member, there's also a members community tab, and those messages, from what I understand, get through every time. But also keep in mind that, you know things are tight for everybody, and that any information pertaining to the Soul Trap that's really important will never be withheld in exchange for money. But I do put a lot of effort into each of the member stream, and that also, going forward, if you do join levels 2 and higher, I have a Discord server which you're invited to join and gather further research as well. We did have it open public since February, but due to a bunch of different problems that I no longer choose to deal with, that's kind of the position I'm in, and I apologize, but it is what it is. I would like to thank Arthur Hearing for his super chat. Thank you so much. He says, I think this research is bringing me full circle. Since I was young and had sleep paralysis and a few OBEs, I'm tired of belief systems and deceptions at every turn. Absolutely, Arthur. 100%, my friend. I'm really happy that you were able to run across this information. And it's so important that we spread the word. That's in my opinion, number one, there's very few of us doing this work. As I mentioned earlier in the stream, check out Wayne Bush at trickedbythelight.com. His website's awesome. I also recommend anyone who's new here, check out the Wayne Bush series that I did. We went many hours discussing all of the different points of Wayne's research, and I also chimed in on some of my research and how we kind of connect with that. Also did the same with Dan at overwatchproject.com and Overwatch channel here on YouTube and Overwatch Project on Odyssey. Check him out. And I think Dan and I have spoken in 5 streams together. Those are the 2 researchers I trust. Besides myself, obviously, I trust Wayne and Dan hands down. There are other people claiming that they're researching this topic, but most of them will lead you astray into an abyss. And I like to connect with people who are doing deep research and not just making things up or saying things that, make things bigger than they are. Trust me, this topic is already screwed up enough. This whole place is already screwed up enough. It doesn't need disinformation and deception and all that and manipulation. It speaks for itself if you base things off of, experiencer data. It's massive, the amount of information you can gather just from that. Instead of just, blind faith. The Palladians are shutting down the Matrix Reincarnation Soul Trap. It's happening. Just trust me. Just trust me. Just like Jesus is coming. Don't take out the garbage tonight because Jesus is coming. It's the same thing. It's on and on and on and on. And the same thing, like, when you die, this is, Wes Penray Incorporated, when you hear about him saying, go between the grids in the Matrix and, you'll be okay. And then, you go down the hall there, keep heading down the hall. And then once you get to the hall, you'll reach some guards and, you ask them, hey, am I worthy? Can I get past there? Yeah. Okay. Forget about that. And the amount of bull that's layered in that, just like remote viewers. I know we were talking about them earlier in the chat, but it has to be said, the remote viewers, there's less than a handful. There is not enough data to say anything about it. And I know nobody needs a 45-degree angle or this or that or this or that. We just need to stand up for ourselves and take care of ourselves and not worry about having to answer to something that we know nothing about. So Wes Penry wants to send you through the holes on the grid, and then then you turn around and you go down there and you go down there, and then eventually, if you just keep chugging along, eventually you reach the border, and you'll meet some guy at a desk, and he'll determine your fate. What's the difference? What is the difference between that and thinking that you got to talk to God or Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad or blah blah blah? There's no difference. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm getting tired. But for those that are already in the Discord server, I'm going to pop in the voice chat for a little while. And if you're interested again in joining the Last Timers Club, check out the description tab for the memberships. And then there's also the pinned comment here, and then also the join button if you're looking to get further content. And our next member stream will probably be in about 2.5-3 weeks. And I will see you all tomorrow with another experiencer. I have some near-death experience interviews coming up. We're going to be talking with some NDEers. And there's a lot in the pike. I also have My Journey to Awakening series is going to be continuing up again soon. So if you're like that series, keep an eye out. I think we'll be getting together next week or the following. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow night. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. Much love. Enjoy your weekend.